Abroad. I lived abroad for 3 years. Absolutely. I am absolutely sure I left the keys in my coat pocket. Across. The stream is very narrow, you can easily jump across. Actually. It looks quite small, but actually it is over 5 meters high. Again. He had to take his driving test again. Ago. He phoned a few minutes ago. Ahead. Our team was losing, but now we are ahead again. All. I forgot all about her birthday. Almost. She's almost as tall as I am. Alone. I don't like traveling alone. Already. I've been waiting an hour already. Also. She sings well and can also play the violin. Always. Why does it always rain when we want to go for a walk? Anymore. We don't go there anymore. Apparently. Apparently she took the last train home and then disappeared. Approximately. It takes approximately 35 minutes to get to the city center from here. Around. Papers were lying around all over the floor. Aside. He took me aside and whispered in my ear. Away. The nearest shop is 3 kilometers away. Back. Put the telephone back on the table. Badly. He was badly injured in the motorway accident. Barely. She barely had enough money to pay for her ticket. Basically. Basically, I'm just lazy. Before. Why didn't you tell me before? Behind. He was first, and the rest of the runners were a long way behind. Below. These toys are for children of 2 years and below. Beneath. She looked out of the window at the children playing beneath. Besides. I don't want to go for a picnic, besides, it's starting to rain. Best. The engine works best when it's warm. Better. She sings better than her sister. Briefly. Briefly, I think we should accept their offer. By. She drove by without seeing us. Carefully. The holiday had been carefully planned. Certainly. Can you give me a lift to the station? Certainly. Cheap. I bought them cheap in the local market. Clearly. Please speak clearly. Close. Keep close by me if you don't want to get lost. Closely. She studied the timetable very closely. Completely. The town was completely destroyed in the earthquake. Constantly. He talked constantly about his work. Currently. He is currently the manager of our Paris office. Daily. We can deliver milk daily. Dead. He was dead tired after his long walk. Deep. The mine goes deep under the sea. Deeply. Her lies hurt my father deeply. Definitely. I'll definitely be there by 7 o'clock. Direct. The plane flies direct to Anchorage. Directly. He refused to answer the question directly. Down. Put the box down in the corner. Due. The plane flew due west. Early. The plane arrived 5 minutes early. Easily. I passed my driving test easily. East. The kitchen windows face east, so we get the morning sun. Effectively. The floodlighting worked very effectively. Either. He isn't Irish and he isn't Scottish either. Else. What else can I say? Elsewhere. This shop doesn't stock maps, so you'll have to try elsewhere. Enough. He doesn't work fast enough. Entirely. I agree with you entirely. Equally. They are all equally guilty. Especially. This suitcase is especially heavy. Essentially. My new job is essentially not so very different from my old one. Even. He doesn't even like strawberries. Eventually. After weeks of hesitation, he eventually decided to sell the cottage. Ever. Nothing ever happens here. Everywhere. There were papers lying about everywhere. Extremely. It was extremely hot in August. Fairly. She treats everyone fairly. Far. How far away is Paris from London? Fast. Walk faster if you want to catch up with the children in front. Finally. The police finally cleared up the mystery. Fine. It's working fine. First. Wash your hands first, and then you can eat. Forever. I will love you forever. Fourth. From that day forth he never drank again. Forward. He took 2 steps forward. Frequently. The fairies don't run as frequently in the winter. Full. The story has never been told in full. Fully. She still hasn't fully recovered from her accident. Generally. The office is generally closed between Christmas and the New Year. Gently. He gently put the blanket over her. Gradually. His condition improved gradually day by day. Hard. It's snowing very hard. Hardly. She hardly eats anything at all. Heavily. He sat down heavily on the little chair. Here. I'll sit here in the shade and wait for you. High. The sun rose high in the sky. Highly. The restaurant has been highly recommended. Home. We've got to go home now. How? I don't know how he does it. However. However you do it, the result is the same. Immediately. As soon as he heard the news, he immediately phoned his wife. In. Could you bring the clothes in for me? Increasingly. The panda is becoming an increasingly rare animal. Indeed. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me to stay. Initially. Initially we didn't like the new flat, but we have got used to it now. Inside. Come on inside, it's cold in the street. Instead. We haven't any coffee, would you like some tea instead? Just. Is that too much sugar? No, it's just right. Largely. His farm is largely grazing land. Last. Out of a queue of 20 people, I was served last. Later. Can we meet later this evening? Least. I like that part of the book least. Go straight ahead and turn left at the traffic lights. Less. The second film was less interesting than the first. Little. It's little more than 2 miles from the sea. Live. The show was broadcast live. Long. Have you been waiting long? Loud. I can't sing any louder. Low. The plane was flying too low, it hit the trees. Mainly. People mainly go on holiday in the summer. Maybe. Maybe the next bus will be the one we want. Meanwhile. You can set the table. Meanwhile, I'll start making dinner. Merely. It was merely a suggestion. More. The dog was more frightened than I was. Moreover. The cellar was dark. Moreover, mice nested there. Much. He's feeling much better today. Naturally. Do you want to watch the game? Naturally. Near. Our house is near the post office. Nearby. He lives just nearby. Nearly. He's nearly 18, he'll be going to university next year. Necessarily. That's not necessarily true. Neither. He doesn't eat meat and neither does his wife. Never. We'll never forget that restaurant. Nevertheless. She had a cold, but went to the meeting nevertheless. Next. On Wednesday we go to Paris, and the next day we travel to Italy. No. Do you want another cup of coffee? No, thank you. Normally. The bus is normally late. North. They were traveling north at the time. Not. It isn't there. Now. I can hear a train coming now. Nowhere. My wallet was nowhere to be found. Obviously. She obviously enjoys her work. Off. The office is just off the main road. Often. I often have to go to town on business. On. Have you put the kettle on? Once. The magazine comes out once a month. Only. We've only got £10 between us. Originally. Originally it was mine, but I gave it to my brother. Otherwise. Do what I tell you, otherwise you'll be sorry. Out. How did the tiger get out of its cage? Outside. It's beautiful and warm outside in the garden. Over. Children of 16 and over pay full price. Particularly. I particularly asked them not to walk on the lawn. Partly. I'm only partly satisfied with the result. Perfectly. That dress fits you perfectly. Perhaps. Perhaps the train is late. Physically. I find him physically very attractive. Possibly. The meeting will possibly finish late. Precisely. The date is not precisely known. Probably. We're probably going to Spain for our holidays. Properly. The parcel wasn't properly addressed. Publicly. The Prime Minister publicly denied the accusations. Quickly. The fireman came quickly when we called 999. Quietly. She shut the door quietly behind her. Quite. It's quite a long play. Rapidly. Her heart beat rapidly. Rarely. I rarely buy a Sunday newspaper. Rather. Their house is rather on the small side. Really. The building really belongs to my father. Recently. I've seen him quite a lot recently. Regularly. They play golf regularly. Relatively. The children have been relatively free from colds this winter. Repeatedly. The phone rang repeatedly, but no one answered. Right. The wind was right behind us. Roughly. Don't play so roughly with the children. Round. The earth goes round the sun. Shortly. He will come shortly. Similarly. All these infections must be treated similarly. Simply. He described very simply how the accident had happened. Since. She phoned on Sunday and we haven't heard from her since. Slightly. He was only slightly hurt in the car crash. So. It's so cold that the lake is covered with ice. Somehow. Somehow we must get back home by 6 o'clock. Sometimes. We all make mistakes sometimes. Somewhere. Let's go somewhere else, this pub is full. Soon. Don't worry, we'll soon be in Oxford. Sound. The children were sound asleep when the police came. South. Many birds fly south for the winter. Specifically. I specifically said I didn't want a blue door. Still. I thought he had left, but I see he's still there. Strongly. He was strongly attached to his family. Successfully. They successfully avoided each other for days. Suddenly. Suddenly the room went dark. Sure. Can I borrow your car? Sure, go ahead. Surely. Surely they can't expect us to work on Sundays. That. His new car is not really that big. Then. Ever since then I've refused to eat oysters. There. Is that black van still there parked outside the house? Therefore. I therefore have decided not to grant his request. This. She's never been this far away from home. Though tired, she still kept on running. Through. Someone left the gate open and all the sheep got through. Throughout. Heavy snow fell throughout the night. Thus. The two pieces fit together thus. Today. He said he wanted to see me today, but he hasn't come yet. Together. Tell the children to stay together or they'll get lost. Tomorrow. Are you free for lunch tomorrow? Tonight. I'll be at home from 8 o'clock tonight. Two. There are too many people to fit into the lift. Totally. The house was totally destroyed in the fire. Twice. Turn it off, I've seen that program twice already. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, you were out when we called. Up. Put your hands up above your head. Usually. Women usually live longer than